want to know if it's as quick to go from there to here with this pointer as it was with the car. Okay. And is it Reinig? Am I saying that?
Reinig.
Reinig?
Yeah.
Thank you. David Reinig. All right. Mr. Reinig, can you go ahead and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true and accurate? It is. Yes, it is. Thank you. Please state and spell your name and provide your address for the record. Okay, my name's David Reinig, D-A-V-I-D. Reinig is R-E-I-N-I-G. My residence is at 1486 120th Street, Little Sioux, Iowa. And let's see, what else did you need? I think that's it for address, zip code. Did you? Yeah. Okay. And then both parcels that we're talking about are in Shelby County. Yeah. Correct. Okay. Now we refer to them as H-HC008. Oops. Nope. H-SH-050 and 064. Is there a different name that you use more commonly? Yeah, I believe there's 4 parcels on the list, and we do call them different farm names there. I guess so it's tiny print here. I could, let's see, the 501, the further south one is called the Anastasi Farm. And the other ones we call the Fries Erickson Farm. Yeah, I could help you out there. That is the Fries Erickson Farm, we call it. No, sorry. I'm sorry. That is the Anastasi. Lord, I got to get clear here. Yeah. Sorry. You're all right. Take your time. Can we back out of that a little bit? Get a broader view. There we go. Okay. All right. Yeah. That is the first one there is the Fries Erickson Farm in the center. Yes. Okay. And are they all contiguous? No. Well, they are. Actually, they are. If you went by the dirt road separates them. We just recently added this one on the south. Just this is the first year farming it. Okay. Okay. Can you describe the current use of the property and any plans you may have for a different use in the future? We are just traditional corn and soybean production, and we do not have any special uses planned for it other than that. Can we get a general description of the property, buildings, structures, waterways, tiles? I think you've seen. Yeah. The property is what I would call normal farmland in the area. There is a little bit of CRP on that new farm. Other than that, we do have a tile line up that Fries Erickson one. Let's see, I know where it is because I just put it in a year ago. There you go. And that is up in that upper left corner of that red shaded area. There's a tile line there. And then also my aunt's ground is to the north of that. I help her in some things. She has 2 tile lines that they all meet in the same place there. Hers also is affected by the proposed pipeline. Okay. And you might be the first testifier we have back from the mic. I've been known to talk too much. No, not too much. We just want to make sure we get all of it. Okay. You're doing great. You're doing great. The tile, can you give us an idea of the size? And I know you described it, but can we describe in some detail the vicinity of where the tile is, and then the depth as well? Yeah, it's 6-inch tiles, what I put in. I believe my aunt's is probably that too. Hers was there for quite a while. You know, on the new farm there on the south, there is tile there that was put in within the last 10 years. I don't know the size of that. It's in the CRP strip that was part of the government program to put that in. The depth, I put mine in with a tile plow. I was going in about 4 feet. 48 inches to the top of the tile. Yeah, in that area, yeah. Okay. Can you tell us where is that CRP section you just described or mentioned? Yeah, on the south one there, okay, there's you can see a ditch there, a drainage ditch. Yeah, that's under a FSA program where you had to seed that down, and then they paid for the tile lines to be put in on both sides of that drainage ditch. So it's a little bit there, yeah, right there. And goes on up to that corner is a FSA USDA program where we have to have that seeded down. It's CRP. So that's just so we have a verbal description in the record that exits on the south and then kind of curves and arcs up to the northeast. I see that in the top 1/3 of that piece, it branches off. There's a branch that goes off to the northwest. Is that CRP as well? No, that's not, and that's not no tile on that one either. Okay. It looks like the pipeline's not scheduled to go through that CRP though. Is that what that white line is? That's the proposed line. That will not affect the CRP. Okay. Or the drainage there. So you're clear there. Are there any other buried infrastructure in terms of telephone, fiber? No, nothing more than the expected. Along the dirt road, there's an electrical line. That's all well documented. Are there any above ground facilities that aren't apparent on the map? No, we're fine there. Streams and bodies of water, and we've touched on a few of these, but streams, bodies of water, and then there appears to be several terraces. Can you just describe those terraces? Yeah. And it would appear the line is crossing 2 terraces there in that northern strip. Is that? Yeah. Okay. And can you describe those terraces and kind of the grade deviation? We can alter them. That's not a problem. None of those things would hold up a pipeline. So the grade's not real steep. But we got other concerns, but those would not be an issue. Any other third-party easements you're aware of on either property? No. Other than the obvious road. Any feature or condition that might not be readily apparent on the map that you want us to know of? No. Okay, we're fine. Can you describe specific concerns you may have and any recommendation you may have for the board to address those concerns? I do. I have some concerns. Let me give a little bit of my credentials first. I worked with the ethanol issue back in 1985. Worked for a Congressman Cooper Evans out of Iowa in his Washington office. I also went on. I was the executive director at the American Soybean Association. I understand these industries well. I've worked at a high post at the USDA as well during the first Bush administration. I have concerns of the pipeline in general being put in place for what I would call a limited use. The ethanol industry, I believe, has got, I'm going to say 20 to 50 years left in it. That may seem like a long time, but it's really not for a project this big. We got 2 billion more people to feed here by the year 2050 is what we're told we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to use our feed products for food and feed, not ethanol. Now, that decision is not something that this board has to do or any of us will be involved in, but it is your decision on whether or not to get this pipeline in place, and I think that it'd be a massive waste of energy, time, and resources. for very limited amount of use. I understand these industries better than the average farmer, and this will not bring any added value to the price of corn or the price of beans. I could argue with that fairly effectively. I understand that some claim that there is a environmental benefit, and I can't speak too much to that, but it doesn't look like it from my standpoint. I also happen to have experience with a pipeline. At my residence, I have a pipeline that goes through the field where I live. That was there before I moved there, and we've had to battle it a little bit. The pipeline's now within 11 inches of the top of the ground. I forget sometimes I have a hired man out there running a subsoiler and stuff, and they come in complaining about the rocks they hit. I'm like, oh, there ain't no rocks out there. They're hitting the pipe. We're hitting that darn pipe every year. Not every year, but commonly. And I can't believe we haven't severed that thing yet. And, you know, that's not a CO2 pipeline. It's a, well, they said they can't tell us what's in it because that's proprietary reasons, and they're afraid people would drill into it and try to tap things out of it. So they can't tell us what's in it or what direction it goes. So, of course, the solution to that is, well, then we just can't farm over it. And that'll seclude about 11 acres in that corner of that field. And of course, then you got a strip there you're not farming it. So when, you know, they say that they're going to bury this thing, well, let me tell you that you're going to be giving up some land down the road, very likely. And I don't know how it gets to this depth, because I'm sure it was placed in deeper, just like this one's scheduled to get in deeper. But the reality is it doesn't get in that deep. These contractors they hire, they'll be hiring many contractors. That's cheaper and quicker to put it in shallow. And no matter how many rules the board puts together or anybody else, they're going to put it in shallower. And they're going to breeze away. I happen to have a big pipeline and tiling machine, and I understand that aspects that you put her in shallower if you can. They're going to put it in probably around 2.5 feet. Is what it don't matter what the rules are, and the inspectors can come out and look all the time they want. You just set it in a little deeper when you see them coming to the field, and it's not going to get in the 4 feet or so that they say. Yeah, there might be a few places it is, but in general it won't. And so I think that's part of the problem why we find these pipelines shallower later on down the road. And that's why I'm battling one that's just 11 inches under the surface of the ground. I got another neighbor who's got it 16 inches. That's a whole different pipeline, by the way. So we deal with these problems down the road. The people that lay the pipeline, they don't have to deal with that problem. It's many years down the road that we start battling these things. I do have a problem with Summit's credibility. When they first talked to me and others in our area, they had said they had 60% of the landowners signed up on it. Well, they couldn't. Was at the very beginning of it. Now they say that I've heard 70%. I've heard 75%. Sunday I was watching on Market to Market. They said they got 73%. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure that all of those are wrong. That there's no. I feel that the board should require a fair level of voluntary easements before eminent domain gets put in place. I believe it's been a state policy that a policy by many of the state's leaders that eminent domain should only be used in very sparingly and in situations where they get most of the voluntary easements in place, but you can't get the remainder. In fact, the State Secretary of Agriculture, I've seen him speaking last week about that. And so we all can understand that, but I don't believe, well, I got one sample from Summit. This came from Summit. a map shows one county, Shelby counties. There's 64. I count 64 landowners on that route. They got 15 permits. That's less than a quarter. And I would challenge their information being, I would say it's uncredible. I don't believe any of it. They don't have no 70%. And I think that if I was on the board, gentlemen, I would require that they have a more reasonable amount of participation before I would put eminent domain in place. I'd at least require half. I don't think they even have that. I understand some counties they have better participation, but I don't think they got it. I don't think they got the numbers. That's really some of my major concerns. I think, well, for one, I'm a farmer. It's not going to add any value to our product. I'm not seeing the advantages out of it, and that's what I see in that. And I do appreciate your time for allowing me to come in and speak my opinion on it.
You mentioned a pipeline near your house. Do you know who operates that?
I do. They send us a card every spring. I can't tell you right offhand, but I have that information. It's right along the Missouri River. It's not a major company, but the pipeline owners work with a major company. I could get that information for you.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if we're speaking on the same pipeline, but
no, that's different.
Okay, so you caught my attention when you say that you hit a pipeline every year.
Yeah, we hit it all the time.
Where on the map is that pipeline? Just is it in one of these parcels we're talking about?
No, it's not. No, I was only bringing that out as my experience with pipelines is it's not once you bury them, they're not out of your way and done with. They come up and we battle it. There's real danger in hitting that thing, and we're hitting it with big equipment, big bad stuff. I can't believe we haven't severed it.
From the utility board's perspective,
I know.
Have you turned this in, or
no? Because then we're going to be probably not be allowed to farm on it. But I thought now it's time to start talking about it.
I just feel like that's something like we do have folks connected to inspectors and things like that.
Yeah.
We have some resources.
They have been out to check the depth and stuff, and and we're supposed to try to do a reasonable job of not hitting it. Obviously, I forget that field is an 888-acre field. I'll tell the hired guys to start on one end, they go to the other end, and they, I just didn't plan on them getting there so soon, and then they're hitting it.
And I would feel like I'm not doing my part.
I know.
To having had this information publicly shared with us. Because anytime you do hit a pipeline, if you will, even though it doesn't sever or isn't ruptured, you do create scarring or you start to weaken that outer coat.
Yeah.
And I actually had a pipeline near where I live that ruptured due to the fact that there was scarring that occurred on top of the pipeline. It was never reported, corrosion occurred, and then they had a leak, and the individual farmer with the backhoe should have contacted the company.
Yeah.
Because liability, I think, got shifted to him. But
we have shared it with our inspector that comes out there. Well, also, I've hit the pipeline that crosses the river. It comes up and over on its own bridge, trestle, and just with a mower, I've hit it.
Did you have any more? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Taylor we've got him first, and then Mr. Dublinsky.
Thank you. Mr. Reinig, I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. And I want to clarify one thing first that maybe I missed. You said you had 4 parcels. The IUB schedule says you only have 2. Can you clarify that for me?
Well, there's 4 legal ownership names, but it's just 2 parcels, 2 farms.
Okay. And those are, pardon me, go ahead.
No, you're seeing them right. We have them up on the board now.
Okay. So there's the northern one that's more of a rectangle, and the southern one that's more of a square.
That's correct.
Okay. That southern parcel on the west side where the pipeline would go, there are some darker colored kind of fingers. What are those?
I don't know. They're not no special feature. They're just cropland.
Okay. It's hard to tell sometimes on these KMZ maps what some of these features are.
Now, when it goes to the south of us, to our neighbors, it does cross. It crossed tile lines there into Roseman's, and I believe he already testified. There it does cross through some CRP and tile lines.
Okay. Is any of your land on either parcel what's called highly erodible land?
Yes, classified by FSA as highly erodible. That's correct.
Where are those areas?
All of it. Well, that's what they classify.
Okay.
It's not that steep, but that's what they classify.
Okay. So do you have any special programs or any requirements that...
yeah, every tract of land everywhere has a farm plan, as they call it, the FSA office. And you are to stick to the requirements of your farm plan. They can or not be real sticky about how well you follow it, but we all have a plan that we have to follow. On these farms here, we have our plan is, of course, we do have some terraces on them, which then they are a little bit looser about how much tillage you can do, but I have down in our plan for us to no-till, and we can do tillage, sparingly tillage, I believe, every other year is the way I have it listed, and so that's what we have to, unless we work it out different, that's what we have to follow.
Okay. Do you have any concerns about the impact on the highly erodible land and your farm plan if the pipeline is installed there?
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, you put a pipeline in, you got a good chance of it washing out. But I mean, that's going to be everywhere. I mean, yeah, I mean, we expect to have a yield loss there. That's common sense. And yeah, we expect there'll be places that would wash out. We'll have to get some dirt in there, stop the erosion. Otherwise, you got a pipeline sticking out of the ground. I mean, those are things that go with having a pipeline, and it would be preferred not to have to battle those things. And, but it's what it is.
You mentioned that you'd worry about crop loss. Can you talk more about that?
Well, the gentleman before me, he had spoken about, you always see the lines from previous compaction and structures, and you do. They changed the road further west to here is our home place, and you see that, the old road, and that was from 57 years ago. You see it when it gets dry and hot. You'll see things show up, and I would expect this path, after they put in the pipeline, if they do, we will see it for a long time. We'll see, I would expect a yield drag on corn, well, let's say percentage-wise, I don't know, probably 20% less yield on where they worked and put in the pipeline.
Okay. Would you expect that crop loss to last more than 3 years?
Well, yeah, it will. It'll go on. Well, like I said, the road just a mile away from this,
you still see it yet this summer. We could see it again. We had a lot of heat, and that was 57 years ago that road was changed.
You talked about your opinion about how this pipeline would impact the ethanol industry. The Summit is claiming that without the pipeline, Iowa's ethanol industry will, if not die, at least severely.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that. That is absolutely ridiculous. There's no other term than ridiculous. I have more experience than they do about these industries. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but I feel that I do. And that is asinine to think that's the case.
What do you think? Well, let me ask you this. Do you think, from your experience, that the ethanol industry is experiencing likely a reduction in the next several years?
Well, I think this part of it, the CO2, is not a factor. You know, I think we're trying to involve the CO2 into the whole game of the profitability of ethanol and feasibility, and it's not. And so whether or not the ethanol plants will do well or not in the upcoming future won't be dependent on this. This is not part of the game. And you have to look at also, there's a whole number of ethanol plants that are not on this. If there was a real profitability, if it was really that important, well, believe me, those other ethanol plants would jump on board. I know ones that I sell grain to, they're not on board. Sire down Constable Bluffs, I don't believe they're on this. Poet and Creston, they're not on this. But sold Cargill and Hamburg, they're not on this. And so I think the only one that's on our leg is all the way, a little one way down Shenandoah is all it is. And Arthur over here, I don't believe they're on it. We sell grain to all those places. And if this was a real promising situation that really allowed a plant to be more feasible, more economical, more profitable, well, they would all be doing it, and they're not.
What contacts have you had with land agents or other representatives of Summit regarding getting an easement over your property?
Well, quite a bit. There's been at least 4 different agents that have talked to me. I think I was one of the earlier ones they talked to. I don't know. I got along with them. They're all very courteous, very good people to work with. But their information, they complained too that their information coming out of Summit was they weren't too sure about the validity of it. And especially that 60% were signed up. And remember, she's like, that's what they tell us, she said. And they had a job to do. I understand that. And they were, decent people trying to do their job. But the company that they're working for, it doesn't sound too good. And frankly, they didn't represent them very well either.
Did you have any discussions about terms, about price? Did you ever get that far with them?
Oh, yeah. Early on when they were offering, we just bought that farm to the south. It's a 120. And they offered me about 2/3 the price of what I paid for it. I said, well, probably ain't going to do that deal. They did up the ante, but still wasn't as much as I had to pay for it. Yeah, I wish I had to pay that much for it, but it's what you have to do in today's market.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Ryan was first, and then Ms. Greenhagen.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You had indicated a concern for the length, how long ethanol has a future. Why does that matter when it comes to this pipeline?
Well, the reason I think it matters is that we're putting in something for nothing. It doesn't have a purpose. Once the ethanol industry fizzles out, what are we going to do with the pipeline? Somebody's going to own that pipeline, and they'll be putting other products in it, is what it'll amount to. They'll try to do something with it, but we're talking about a massive project here. I mean, massive. A lot of money, and for no reason, limited reason.
So would it be fair to say that if the pipeline would have a longer useful life, you might feel differently about it?
Definitely.
And you talked a little bit about ethanol, why you think that ethanol won't be lasting very long, and you gave us some of your professional background. Would you also please describe your educational background?
Okay, I went to Iowa State and got a bachelor's degree and MBA from George Washington. I worked for Senator Grassley for a couple of years on his ag issues. I headed up an agency in the USDA called APHIS. That doesn't have much to do with this, but certainly worked in the industry in a lot of ways.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Greenhagen?
Thank you. My name is Chris Greenhagen. I'm representing the Iowa Farm Bureau here in the proceedings, and so I have a few questions for you. I'd like to start out to try to clarify which parcels that we're working on here. The one on the south side there, that's SH064, and you referred to that as the Fries Erickson Farm, correct?
No, that's not correct. That's called the Anastasi Farm.
I had them switched.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then I think Circle 4 owns that one in between. And then the next red area there, that's Reinig Inc.
Yes.
And is that your...
Yeah, I'm the president of Reinig Inc. It's our family corporation.
Okay. And so that parcel number is SH-049. And then there's another one that's to the north of that, yes.
Yeah.
Small.
Right. They were added at different times.
Yeah.
And that one, do we have that under Reinig Inc. or under the trust?
That one's under the trust.
Okay.
So
and I'm the trustee of that.
Yeah, there should be a 6-acre parcel right above SH-049.
Right.
I don't know if we can highlight it or... I think you can see the line. There. Yes, there we go. You can see the mouse outlining a very thin...
Yeah, it came from my grandmother. That was added in.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then above that one, is that one, you also rent some farms going up north?
No, I do not. I do not, but it butts up against my aunt's land. I work with my aunt in other ways, but no, I don't farm that. Okay. But we work together in a sense where, like a tile line or something, we look out for each other, I guess is the way to put it.
So is Productive Farms LLC, is that your company?
No, it's not. That's my aunt's.
That's your aunt's company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're listed as a farm tenant.
I know, that was incorrect. I don't know how they got that.
Okay.
I've never farmed that. No.
Okay. So there are 3 parcels that are owned by Productive Farms LLC that you're listed as a farm tenant.
I'm not the tenant. Never was.
You're not the farm tenant.
And no intention there.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
That. I appreciate that. Okay. So you just farmed. There's 3 parcels here that we're talking about today.
That I'm the farmer or an owner. Yes, that's right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
So you were talking to Mr. Taylor about that these farms are HEL land.
Yes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about your farm plan,
yes.
Conservation plan that you're required to have.
Yes.
With that, if you violate your conservation plan, what happens?
As I understand it, they can penalize you in terms of any subsidization can be withheld from a farmer by violating your conservation plan. Well, I'm sure of that. And so really that's what you don't want to violate it. And plus, we all want to see the best of our land, and so we want to do the best we can for our farms.
And so if the permit is approved and Summit does construct a pipeline, especially with regard to like your terraces and your, if NRCS or FSA would find you in violation?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't have the answer to that. It'd be similar to like when we put in rural water lines and stuff too. I guess I just don't know.
Would you want Summit to make you whole if they found you in violation of your plan?
Well, of course, if it's being forced on us and then they break the rules and we got to take a fine, well then, yeah, I would expect somebody that forced us to do that should have to cover that.
And you're also talking to Mr. Taylor about crop loss, and that you estimated there was going to be a 20% crop loss ballpark in that area. If that crop loss continued past the 3 years,
well, obviously, crop loss is higher in the upfront years. I'd say crop loss the first year or so, right in that easement area, could be off, 40%, 50% maybe. And then it starts getting less and less. And I would say, like, I spoke of the old road that you see by the home place 57 years ago. Well, that one's not 20%. I'd give that down around 5 to 7% average yield drop. So it gradually gets less and less as the years go by. I would suspect in 80 years there won't be any.
But if you're noticing crop loss past the 3-year time period,
they do.
Would you want Summit to compensate you for the reduction in that crop yield?
Well, I guess I'd say that kind of if it goes through, we get hosed either way. So I don't know what to say there. Yeah, I would, but I think we're gonna get punished. It's just how do we get punished less? Yeah, it'd be nice if they would compensate for that.
I think so. That's all the questions I have today.
Okay, seeing no more questions from the parties, I think Board Member Burns has a question.
Test. There we go. Just for clarification of the record, which parcel did you say you had recently purchased?
The southern part, which is, I know for testimony it'd be the southern part.
And is that the one that you referenced in your comment about the easement offer?
Yes.
The 2/3?
That's correct.
And when did you purchase that?
It would be April, a year ago April.
And just want for clarification, you said you were offered 2/3 of the value you paid.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Did you make a counter offer back after that offer?
I just said it'd have to be a lot higher, and they did. They made a higher offer later on.
And then you still turned that down, correct? Otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I wasn't against the laying the pipeline until I started reviewing more and more about it. And I'm like, this is, I'll be honest, I thought it was a joke at first. I was like, this doesn't matter. This thing ain't going to go through. This thing's too big of a project. This will never actually get to the point of putting a pipeline in. And I'm still not sure I'm wrong about that, but it's getting closer because we're having hearings about it right now. It just seemed to be just a pipe dream type thing, and so I wasn't too serious about it. But now it looks like it has some possibilities of getting through. And this is a big deal. This is big. I still have to ask myself, surely something like this won't go through, but I'm like,
how many inch pipe is that's being proposed on your parcel?
I believe 8 inch.
8 inch.
Yes.
All right. I think that's all the clarification questions I had. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't believe there's any more questions. Ms. Gruenhagen's name tag is up. Okay, well, good. No, Mr. Reinig, thank you for coming in.
Okay. And thank you for your time. I know that you guys are having to deal with this every day. I only had to deal with it for an hour. And so I feel for you guys having to do all this, and I appreciate that we all can get up here and speak our thoughts, and sorry for unloading on you a little bit on some of these things, but I appreciate being able to say that.